Welcome to the My House Podcast, a show about the past, present, and future goings-on at the My House Youth Drop-In Center in Wasilla, Alaska, with your host, Michelle Overstreet.
Welcome to episode 57 of the My House Podcast. I'm your host, Michelle Overstreet, and today I'm joined by Shanar, who is one of our peer support workers at the My House Drop-In Center and the 3.1 Recovery Program. I'm saying both because I think you kind of go back and forth. You've been in both, and
I go where I'm needed.
Yeah. And our focus for this series is kind of exit strategies. One of the things that I think is difficult for people when we talk about homelessness, there's a focus on housing, and we don't have enough housing, and housing has to be the focus. And we focus on, money. We have more people, so we need more money. What we focus on here is exit strategies and helping people exit homelessness permanently. And one of the ways that we do that is by having people to walk alongside those who are in the situation. And you've got a foot in each place. So I'm really excited to have a conversation with you about the drop-in center, which is where they come first, and they can kind of identify, all right, this is where I am. This is where I'd like to go, or these are my first steps, right? And then the treatment program is sort of taking a giant step up and saying, I'm really going to commit myself to getting clean and sober and having a lifestyle that really launches me toward not only an exit strategy, but a sustainable lifestyle. And so talk a little bit about your role here, your peer. So what does peer support do? When we talk about peer support, what does that look like in the framework of helping people be not homeless ever again?
And maybe even before that, what does peer support mean? Because I think that we use that term a lot, but it would help for people to have a definition of what is a peer support person.
What does it mean, and what do you do?
So it is having that lived experience. So that sets you aside from case managers, behavioral health associates. You're more meeting them at their level. So you have a better understanding because you yourself have been in possibly similar situations as some of these clients that are walking in the door. So a lot of the times, right off the bat is what has brought you to this point in your life to where, you're misplaced in whatever aspect that is. If it's homelessness, if you have substance abuse problems, mental health problems. And my job is to build that rapport with the clients and that trust and sharing my lived experiences with them through that. Yeah. So it does look a little bit different at the drop-in center. It's more crisis-based as opposed to 3.1, where they have treatment plans they're developing, and they're already, like you said, they're already on that path of knowing that they've chosen to take these steps to no longer live that lifestyle. It's heavily focused on goals. So we'll look at their goals and whatever that may be, if that's anything from education to jobs, anything that they're looking to better and improve their lives, we're there to support them along the way. That's taking them to those resources, taking them to those activities. And we're also developing healthier lifestyles as well. So a lot of us who are in active recovery have learned how to develop those healthy coping skills, either through going to the gym, going to meetings. We start going over all of these different ways that we've been successful in maintaining our sobriety and share that lived experience as well.
Yeah, and I think that for a lot of organizations, when I do presentations, I like to talk about our services like, three-legged stool, which is a little bit of an overused analogy, but it does make sense because you need, I also use Maslow's hierarchy and not a lot. Like you need that baseline stability first because we have so many clients that are coming to us in crisis, but, and everyone knows that, yes, we need to be providing those services. You need a roof over your head, food, water. But I think where sometimes there's a lot of wild divergences in this type of social service is when you kind of get to this next phase, if you get to this next phase of the let's address kind of the underlying reasons for why you're in crisis in the first place.
Exactly.
And I think our peer support does a really great job of starting to get to those root causes. And there can be a lot. I mean, it can be a pretty wide spectrum in a lot of cases.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you're not always, it's hard to share, right? And so it's hard to share where you're at. But if we can start to open up that relationship with them so they feel that they can be honest and where they're at, then we can go from there, right? And
So when we're talking about those clients coming and they're trying to figure out, you're trying to build trust with them and just help them identify where they are. I see a lot of times they're accustomed to people having expectations that they can do things in their current condition that sometimes they can't. I know that I've had kids come here that haven't slept in days, they haven't eaten in days, they're dehydrated, they're malnutritioned. We had a young man who came from the Sullivan Arena who was so hungry that he literally for 2 days just ate and slept. And he couldn't hardly answer questions before that because his brain just wouldn't work. And I think we really have to have an understanding, you being the person who's walking alongside him saying, I know how you feel. I felt that same way. Here's what I found. Let your body rest. Trust your housing situation, that you're going to be safe there and you're going to be able to sleep. We've had human trafficking survivors, incest survivors, sexual assault survivors come into our housing and they have trouble sleeping. Trust that you're going to be safe. There's security, there's cameras, you've got housemates who are able to call for help. Just let your body rest, let your mind rest, eat good food, drink water, go to the gym with us. And I really think that your presence in those situations where you can say, I was there, I'll help you guide. I'll guide.
Yeah.
I'll help you be your guide.
And we meet them where they're at in their journey because everybody's journey is different, right? And so, that's of utmost importance when they first walked in is the basic needs. That's the first thing that I address because everything else we can get to. That's
coming into the drop-in center, food, clothing, showers, laundry, someone to listen, medical care if they need it, behavioral health care, substance use disorder services, networking with those partners. I really liked what Cody said earlier about in the last podcast about his GED and that he thought it was going to take him, weeks. And he started taking the tests and he was passing the tests without having to do weeks of studying. Yep. And I think that's really a nice statement about capacity. We didn't know what his capacity was. He didn't know what his capacity was, but it moved him up on that Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? He took a leap up and you could see the difference in his confidence. Even when he talks about it, his posture changes, his voice sounds stronger. And so sometimes looking for those opportunities to help them find something that they can have success in early on.
Oh, yeah. And I think a lot of them have grown up where they haven't had that support. And they were always told they weren't good enough or they couldn't do this. And so they're getting the exact opposite of that here is full support in whatever they, definitely. Yeah. And I'm hoping even some of the clients, if they don't engage in the services right away, that we've planted that seed that there is a safe place for them to come and that we're here for them when they're ready. Yeah.
We've talked about, in the nature of talking about exits and sustainability from graduation, we know that the treatment piece is a big one for our clients. We have a lot of clients that have lived experiences, struggle with substance use. So it's with our program, 18 to 25, it's 114 days that you're going to be spending time with us in that unit.
Residence.
Right. So I'm assuming, I think it's safe to say that not every one of those 114 days is sunshine and roses and everyone's super glad and happy to be there. How does those peer support folks, whether they're residential staff members that are full-time at residential that have lived experience, or, with our peers that, come alongside and assist in those? How does that peer support model help those days that maybe aren't the best?
Yeah, I think because we can relate to where they're at. So we do, it's having grace and having patience, and just knowing that they're trying to work through some serious trauma. And not just that, but there's a lot you go through in recovery and coming off, depending on what your substance of choice was. There's going to be not just like a mental aspect to this, but there's also going to be a physical aspect that we have to take into consideration. Yeah. So just knowing that, and I think that helps with us in peer support, helps us to give that grace where others may not be able to relate to that and what they're going through. And they always afterwards, if say there were these incidences that you're talking about, we always follow up with them, and they actively will follow up with us as well. They apologize, but we also say, we understand what you're going through, and then we'll again share our lived experience. So that's super helpful, where that comes into play again, of being able to tell them that, where I think, a lot of clinicians can't necessarily share that, where we can be open and honest and share our recovery stories and our history with addiction. So again, that builds stronger rapport with them. And then we start to develop these really strong relationships where they can come to us before it gets to that situation where it's escalated like that. And they can let us know ahead of time that, like, this is what they're going through, this is what they're trying to work through, and we can help them before it escalates, or give them the tools that they may not have to be able to cope with that.
Shanar, you're talking a lot about your lived experience, but I also know that what you're describing is trauma-informed care, and you're very well trained. You're very well trained. You do have lived experience, but our peer support team is incredibly well trained for crisis stabilization, youth mental health first aid. I mean, I can't list all the trainings that you.
We didn't even get to see Shanar the first couple of weeks she was here, because she was just training for a month straight.
Right. And so I really wanted to emphasize that as well, that I think you're very humble when you talk about your personal experience, but your expertise about what they're dealing with, knowing some of the post-acute withdrawal effects on the brain and the timelines for those for different drugs. It's different for marijuana and for benzodiazepines and for alcohol. And so knowing those things, knowing what the expectation could be, but that everybody struggles at a different level, and allowing that to help you have that grace and just to walk with them and be patient is so powerful. And that's a testament to your training, but also your heart, the ability to maintain grace under fire and I'm marveling because we started the 3.1 program in January, and we've got kids just coming through level 3, level 4, graduating, and they're coming in my office and saying, I love this program. Said no teenage kid ever, right?
I know. Yeah.
And I'm beyond pleased by that, because I really think that is a statement about not just our ability to reach and connect with them, which is what peer support, the essence of peer support, but it's also their capacity. And when we tell them they can do it, they believe it, right? We're talking about seeing youth as assets in the community instead of liabilities. Correct. And every kid that comes across our beam, we're breathing that life into. That's that peer support, the nature of that peer support, where you say, if I can do it, you can do it.
Yeah. And we're fortunate that our program is different from it's not the first time some of these clients have been through treatment either. So we're fortunate that we have a more holistic approach to our treatment program. So Yeah, they'll have these certain level of expectation going into it, but then the reality is completely different. And so that's probably how they can, attest to their experiences with you when they walk into your office as well. As it's not the same as every other treatment program.
Yeah, they feel that. They feel it.
Yeah.
They feel the fact that we believe in them and that they are viewed as assets, and not just in our organization but in our community. And I'm really, really proud of the work that you're doing and the success of the program and the clients that are engaging in there. I think it's incredibly life-changing, and we're utilizing that Maslow's hierarchy of needs and moving kids from the most basic food, clothing, showers, laundry, safety to those levels where they're introspective and setting goals and accomplishing and becoming contributors in their community, which in the time period that they've been doing that is really quite stupefying, right?
Yeah, it's amazing to witness. Yeah.
And you're doing a lot of community stuff too now.
Yep.
And I think at the Matsu, we're very fortunate. I like to throw the stat around, even though it's made up and totally anecdotal, that I do think that in the borough, we have more peer support workers per capita than probably most anywhere else in the country. And so like just this week, we had the recovery barbecue. So how does that peer support and just that general community support help our clients, outside of the building as well, when they know they have those supports?
It's a network.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, you're building a support network basically, and that's huge too. And part of our treatment program as we talk about that, and that's also in their goals that we review is super important. And before they graduate the program, we make sure that they have this, they have all of their sobriety connections in place before exiting. So,
yeah, not just a sponsor.
No,
the whole community. I think you're right, Isaac, and I'm a firm believer in that statistic, made up or not. When Carl and Kirby started peer support here in 2015, maybe, there was nobody in Alaska doing that. They flew out to the McShin Foundation, got trained, came back and said, we should do this as a community. Carl started True North Recovery and really made that not just an expectation, but a solid part of treatment programs across the valley here and across Alaska. And I think it's incredibly powerful. And I think that when we're talking about exiting homelessness, we have to have peer support. We have to have peer support.
Yeah, for communities or organizations that maybe don't have that piece yet, what would you say as an encouragement for why it's so needed when we're talking about these services?
I think, like I mentioned before too, is being able to be relatable with the lived experience. It's super important. Like if I had somebody, I feel like if I had somebody I could have related to earlier on when I was a youth and been able to make those connections. I had therapists, I had guidance counselors, but there was no way they could connect with me or have that relatable shared lived experience to where I could trust them and open up to them and share my story and try to get better and heal from it. So I would just stress again the importance of that, of being able to meet somebody at where they're at in their journey, and be able to support them. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I think that's part of how we help people not only exit homelessness but grow on that hierarchy of needs, so that that never becomes an option again. They're living in the self-actualized place instead of struggling on those lower levels, and we're really seeing that. It's really exciting. We're seeing that success. Yeah. I think that's all the time that we have for today. Thank you, Shanar, for joining us, and for being part of our team. It's really powerful and important to have you here and to have you do the work that you do with us.
Thank you, guys.
The My House podcast is recorded at the My House studio in Wasilla, Alaska. Our producer and editor is Ozzie Keener, and I'm Michelle Overstreet. Until next time.